Good morning. Happy Monday. It is September 11th, and it's the brand new start of a week. And there's shit for news, but there is some stuff we can go over. We're going to talk about, actually, Crypto Zombie had a good video. He talked about a whole bunch of stuff, actually, in the whole Bitcoin market. And then on top of that, we had somebody that's been on, I don't even remember the guy's name, to be honest, on Altcoin Daily that kind of goes over the price of Bitcoin and where we could end up by the end of the year or in the near coming future. So let's see who's in the chat real quick, and then I'll get into this. Mr. Yeti, good to see you. DJ Mines, Leo Lustig, Sadie sometimes, Patrick, Whitbox, Murphy, you changed your name again. Appreciate it, buddy. Were you playing Rust? Wow, losing my voice. You playing Rust again? Making some of that Neoxa? Good for you. Nerdbeast, Andrew Masad, good to see you. Game with Smokey, Dan. Let's see, Dumpster Fire, Paddywhack Miner, good to see you. I'm on top chat, not live chat. Damn it. All right, let's get into this because I started a bit late. I apologize, but as you guys can see, red lights behind us mean the market is down. Let's get into this. Bitcoin 25,634. The entire market is red. Ethereum 1587. We have XRP is in deep red at 47 cents. We have Litecoin over here at 59 bucks. Damn, 59 bucks, under 60 bucks. That's crazy. Dogecoin is literally 6 cents even. Again, September has been the worst month for crypto in a long time. All right, actually forever, right? It's been just consistently the worst month overall. So I'm glad my birthday's in September. It's nice. Puts things into perspective. Camera looks sick. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, Mr. Patrick. Let's see, Iowa crypto mining, which I still called Depran. Thanks for your help on that video I dropped the other day. All right, crypto bubbles. Let's see. Look at everything. Holy, I'm gonna full screen this. Oh my gross. Oh my gross. This is terrible. This is terrible. Everything's down. And you know what? I was listening to something. I forget what it was, but it was man. Someone said something about altcoins, and a lot of them are gonna go to zero. And I mean, I don't know. There's so many altcoins. What do you guys think? Do you think that's possible for most of them to go to zero? I don't know if that's really possible, but let's see what's the worst on the week, I guess. We have Gala, 16%. We have RLB, which is what? Roll Bitcoin. That's down 20%. Man, everything's down. Solana. So actually, you know what? Just so you guys know, Solana is obviously a network where Visa is actually going to be implementing their payment system onto. So they chose Solana, and I think it's going to have quite the run up on the next bull run. That's just my personal opinion, not financial advice, but I do plan on investing into Solana. And right now, 1766, that's fairly cheap. 20 bucks. Oh God, sorry, just blinded everybody in the chat. We are 40 for Fear and Greed Index. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about Solana, and then we'll go from there. And I just blinded you again. Apologize. All right. CoinGecko, let's see, top 10 coins by coin market cap. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, BNB, USD Coin, XRP, Lido Staked, Ether, Cardano, Dogecoin, and Solana still in 10th. Then we go down to 15th, and Litecoin still down there, and Shiba. There's some drama going on with Shiba as well, but I don't care about it, to be honest. All right, let's get into real quick. So this is going to be bright again. I apologize. Hacker steals over 690,000 after hijacking Vitalik Buterin's Twitter account. Did you guys hear about this? A fake link promising an exclusive NFT was posted to the Ethereum inventors feed. All right, so just saying, any links that you get in emails, that you get on Twitter, that you get anywhere on the planet, just don't click on them. Unless you know this person that's sending it to you, do not click on it. And even if you know the person, please still don't click on it. Look at him. He's so in shock. There's Peach Fuzz. Oh man, that's an exclusive close-up. All right, Ethereum creator Vitalik Buterin appears to have fallen victim to a hacker on Twitter who went on to steal 691,000 from users who followed a corrupted link posted in his feed. The hack was first noticed. Oh shit, so this is from other people. Oh, that's terrible. So it's 691,000 total from who followed a corrupted link. So whoever clicked on that link on his account, that is terrible. The hack was first noticed on Saturday when a post appeared on Buterin's post announcing the launch of a set of commemorative, I can't even say that, God, non-fungible tokens, NFTs from software provider Consensus. This malicious link, which could have been shown to many of his 4.9 million followers, prompted victims to connect their wallet to mint the NFT, but in reality, it simply created a vacuum from the hacker to make off with their funds. Wow. Wow. That's terrible. Let me guess. MetaMask? Is anybody going with MetaMask? Is this MetaMask? Is that what happened? I assume it was MetaMask because Twitter, NFTs, right? Let's see. On crypto Twitter, it says users were quick to raise the alarm about the fake link, but the first apparent acknowledgement that Buterin was hacked came from his father, Dima Buterin. Disregard the post. Apparently, Vitalik has been hacked. He is working on restoring access. Damn, that's brutal. So this is his dad? This is his dad right here? I'm not logged in, but I'm not following him. I don't know if you guys are following him, but this is, I'll put this in the live chat if you guys would like to follow him, because clearly he is going to be keeping you guys up to date when his son gets hacked. Interesting. But nonetheless, that's kind of weird. I was looking over here at Cointelegraph. There really isn't shit going on, to be honest. So let's get into, let's get into Mr. Crypto Zombie's video first, because honestly, this video, I think he gets into a lot of things, shows a couple clips, and just overall the Bitcoin market, right? So the Bitcoin's only been around for what, 13 years or so. And he made a very interesting point that I thought was kind of neat to listen to, that people that were born 13 years ago will never be born without a world without Bitcoin, or in a world without Bitcoin. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of neat to think about, and we are kind of that stepping stone that needs to kind of gear Bitcoin in the proper direction to, I guess lay out the rest of these people's lives, right, that are going to be just around with Bitcoin forever. So I don't know, it's just kind of neat. Let's hear what he has to say about it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Let me turn this down because he's usually kind of loud, and then we will go from there. Let's do it.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. Now, there is a lot of FUD going around right now about what could possibly potentially happen next week. Now, I'm obviously talking about the over $1 billion worth of potential assets that could be released from FTX. Now, people are saying this could be very bad for the market. It could be catastrophic, right? Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the DXY. The DXY has actually put in a higher high. If we actually have a look right here, you can see that we are now sitting higher than this peak over here. So obviously this is scaring a lot of people, and everyone's waiting for this big reversal on the DXY, or else everything is just gonna, crash down to zero, catastrophe. Well, I told you in my previous video, which is actually a really great video if you haven't seen it, on the Bitcoin ETF, we're gonna talk about the DXY and what's really going on right now, and why some people may actually have it a little bit backwards. Also, again, you're hearing people losing interest in crypto, saying that the ETF is just going to be a big, nothing burger, sell the news, and also the fact that we're not early and there's no chance to make any money in crypto anymore. You're going to be absolutely mind blown when you see what is really happening right now while everyone's basically disappeared, right?
He has to have balls of steel to wear this shirt. I'm sorry. Look at this shirt.
YouTube is quiet, Twitter X is quiet, right? No one's paying attention. So we're going to go over all that today. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video. And also, I'm going to push the TA to the end because, let's be honest, it's been pretty boring. So if that sounds good to you, you know what to do. If you're not subscribed, definitely consider it. Shout out to everyone who has been subscribing. I love you guys all. Let's dive in. Let's have a look at what's going on right now.
Real quick, before he gets into this, he's going to talk about some phishing scam, like the Vitalik Buterin thing, same thing we just talked about. But real quick, I want to show you guys this. Someone actually sent this to me in Discord, and I totally forgot. Someone paid a $500,000 transaction fee to move $200 of Bitcoin. What? That's like legit. My man Tyson sent me this not too long ago. Oh, and I clearly X'd out one of the tabs, but the transaction was made on September 10th at 5:10 p.m. UTC. It made 4 payments that added up to around $200 while sending $1,700 of Bitcoin to a change address. The transaction fee was 1989 Bitcoin. What? This guy got hosed. The wallet appeared in June, and it's still making transactions according to on-chain data. This is somebody that has way too much freaking money. But I guess this wallet's been around for quite some time. But I guess this has happened before, and this was over on F2 pool. So it says the transaction fee went to Bitcoin mining pool F2 pool, which mined the block containing the transaction. Chung Wang, co-founder and administrator of F2 Pool, said that 20 Bitcoin will be put on hold for 3 days in case the originator wants to claim it. That guy, if you don't claim that, bro, what are you doing? If unclaimed during that period, it will be paid to its pool of Bitcoin miners. So guys, if you have a Bitcoin miner, turn that shit on right now. Right now. I'm going to turn on my S9. I don't give a shit if I lose money for 3 days. Over its Bitcoin history. Over its history of Bitcoin, rather. Has seen a number of high-value transactions, transaction fees, rather. Hold on, wait. Question. I do have a question for you guys. Does anybody know if this will pay to the pool? Anybody that's on it at the time, after the 3 days, or will this only pay the people that were on it during that time? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? That's crazy, right? Now, again, back over to this. It says, over the history of Bitcoin has seen a number of high-value transaction fees. For instance, according to the block chair, someone who paid $134,000 as a fee during a transaction in 2016. In total, there has been 24 Bitcoin transaction fees exceeding $20,000 and 233 transactions that have included fees above $10,000. What the fuck? What are you doing? What are you doing to F up that bad? I don't even know. All right, you guys let me know. Let me know about that F2 pool thing, because shit, I'll straight up turn on my S9 right now. All right, let's do it. Let's continue.
Thing though that I did want to say was a little bit of a warning. If you are following Vitalik Buterin over on Twitter, just be careful. They think his account got hacked and there was $700,000 that have been lost in phishing scams. Please, please, please be very careful. Don't click on any links that you don't understand, right? So here's the big thing that everyone's freaking out about. This is the fact that FTX, they're saying, could have some big selling pressure in the next week. They will likely get approval to liquidate their assets on September 13th. Now, just gonna say, how many times have we heard this FUD, right? The Tether FUD, the Mt. Gox FUD, and now it's the big FTX FUD. Is it really gonna hit the markets that bad? Well, if you have a look right here, the majority of the holdings are really in Solana and the FTT token. And just having a look at Bitcoin, okay, so $268 million in Bitcoin. If we come over here in CoinGecko, and keep in mind, this is the weekend. This is the weekend, and it's very slow, and there's nothing happening. And you can see right here that Bitcoin has done $5.1 billion in trading volume. Now, I'm not going to go into whether or not this is wash trading, whatever. My point is, it did 5.1 billion. So I don't think 200 and something, change is really going to affect it. So do I think that this is just sort of FUD? Yes, I do. I think maybe people may react to the news. People may freak out and sell. That could maybe see something, but this alone won't cause it. Plus, you can see that they're limiting it to only 200 million per week. So no, I don't think this is going to affect the market. So that's my opinion on it. I don't feel the need to talk about that anymore. Moving on, this is what we need to discuss though. $100 billion has exited the U.S. banking system in just 3 months. Kevin O'Leary was talking about this over on Fox, and he was saying that people are very nervous about putting their money in banks, and he expects more and more collapses potentially to happen over the next year. But then the big question is, well, if they're not putting their money in banks, where are they putting their money? Good question, right? Maybe. Are they accumulating Bitcoin? Well, that's a theory, but
Offshore accounts, for sure. Getting it the hell out of the U.S. because we don't know what the fuck we're doing over here.
just to kind of point out the fact, one of the discussions that we had in the previous video was smart money, right? And saying how when BlackRock gets involved in something, they know what they're getting involved in, they know what they're doing, and yeah, they could make money on fees, of course, that's how all exchanges make money, but at the end of the day, BlackRock prides themselves on being an asset manager of assets that appreciate in value over time. So they actually want to see the price go up as well. And just look at this guy over here. This is Ricardo B. Salinas. He is one of the richest people in the world, one of the richest in Mexico.
Must be nice.
$13.8 billion. And listen to what
is that much money? $13.8 billion. Jesus.
He has in his liquid portfolio. Only this.
In the liquid part of the portfolio, I now opted to, I basically just have Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, 4 or 5 miners.
Wow. Is miners? Hold on, this guy is Bitcoin and miners?
Some oil companies and some gold miners. That's it.
So if you don't want to
listen, some gold miners, you mean like actual places to like dig up gold? Like, old like stick and bucket type deal?
Listen to me. If you don't want to listen to anybody else, Follow the money. This guy's got $13.8 billion.
crazy.
He's obviously doing something right? So if he's putting his money in Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners and things like gold and oil, maybe that's something we should all be paying attention to, right? Now, getting back to the ETF, again, if you did not watch that video, you got to go back and watch it. But as you can see right here, according to K33 Research, a green light for a spot Bitcoin ETF could catalyze a 66% bull rally, consequently potentially propelling the price of Bitcoin towards 42,000 in just the first 100 days. You can see right here, these are the projected estimates. And they go on to say that the market is wrong and dramatically underestimates the impact of a US Bitcoin spot ETF. Odds for a US spot ETF approval have never been better. I expect stronger inflows, this is from the report, than both BITO and Purpose Managed in their first trading days. The past 4 years have seen a strong relationship between Bitcoin investment vehicle inflows and appreciating Bitcoin prices, right? So again, while everyone is sleeping on it, everyone's ignoring it or saying, another narrative is I saw somebody say, we'll never get another run like we did in 2020. And that was the greatest run ever.
Every year.
I was like, I don't know, guys. 2017 was pretty insane too. I don't know if you were there for 2017. It was like any coin you picked, any token you picked was like 100x easy.
So listen, 2017, right? I got into Bitcoin shortly after, or just in general crypto, shortly after 2017. I think it was like 2018, 2019. I started like really like, what the hell is Bitcoin? But I saw that shit. Well, I didn't see it run up to 20,000, but I saw it down at 3,000 or 3,500, whatever it was at, the low after the 20,000. So to say it's not going to have a run up again, honestly, I think that's kind of just being naive and foolish. If we're having this much mainstream adoption in the news, like every other week, somebody's talking about Bitcoin. You just saw that guy with $13.5 or $8 billion rather, investing into Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners. Like, come on, think it's not going to be another run up.
Right? So I actually think it's getting a little bit more difficult, but still, again, are we early? Well, look at this video right over here from Andrew Durkee. He's the CEO of Republic. He's speaking in front of Congress, and he's explaining technologies and how technologies advance over time. And it really puts you into perspective where we actually are in this cycle right now.
We are in the early stages of this technology, and I really want to provide some examples of that.
This is the most important part. So Chris Hanley, you just made it.
It generally takes about 25 to 30 years for human beings to adopt a new data transfer technology. Radio was invented in 1890, but wasn't commercially available until the 1920s. TV was developed in the 1920s, but wasn't in homes until the 1950s. Email was invented in 1969, but most of you most likely didn't have an email address until 1997. There is one that I really want to focus on.
Wait, did you say 1969 email was invented? Wait, what?
On, and that's TCP/IP, which is the internet, for those that don't know. It was developed as a DARPA project in 1970, but it wasn't really commercially accepted until 1995 when it was rolled out with Windows 95.
Wow.
There's another important date, which is 1983. 1983 is when TCP/IP was accepted as the standard protocol for internet development, 13 years after it was created. Well, here we are, 13 years after Bitcoin was created, and we're just now starting to talk about standardization. This is not a coincidence.
Listen to this.
Adoption at this stage is not a technology problem, it's a human conditioning issue. Every 13-year-old in the United States has only existed in a world where Bitcoin has existed. 3 years from now, every 16-year-old will have only existed in a world where Bitcoin has existed.
Think about that. That's crazy.
16 years old is an important date because it's generally when someone becomes interested in becoming a developer. They are the adoption layer. We here in this room, we're the infrastructure layer. It's our responsibility to create an environment where every 13-year-old American has a framework upon which they can build the next world on.
And if you think this is all just fluff, like
my
we're just
God,
making
sorry.
this up, like everybody and their mom has crypto,
He just scared the shit out of me when he came back.
that's not true at all. In fact, Brian Armstrong came out and he said that there's only roughly about 5% of the United States that actually actively trades and owns crypto. Now, of course, maybe somebody's doing some, P2P or something like that, but most people are using something like Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, right? You can even see here, this is official data from AAA. Global crypto adoption as of 2023 is estimated to be around 4.2%, or around 420 million crypto users. We have over 8 billion people in the world, okay? So not even just talking about BlackRock and all these other guys with their $14+ trillion in assets combined, probably higher at this point. You're also looking at the fact that we still have 95% of the world that hasn't even bought Bitcoin, bought Ethereum, or, you know, even used a stable coin, right? So that is something to consider. Now, could it be a little bit higher? Maybe, right? We don't know. But even if it was up around 6%, 7%, that's still nothing considering, you know, how much of the world has cell phones, how much of the world has cars, how much of the world has computers and internet and things like that. To think that there's still places that don't have internet is actually pretty mind-boggling. But nevertheless, guys, yes, we are early. If you don't think you're early, I don't know, maybe you're spending too much time on X listening to all this doom and gloom. I mean, look at the countries, right, that are just turning around. Uzbekistan's president has signed amendments introducing comprehensive cryptocurrency licensing for exchanges, mining pools, storage services, and mining activities. Licensed entities must now pay taxes, right? So as soon as you pay taxes, it's official. It's official, right? Marking recognition of cryptocurrency as legitimate assets aligning with global trends. And you can call it a conspiracy, you can call it a new world order, you can call it whatever you want, but even at the G20, they're talking about plans for digital currencies and the need to regulate.
Laying the building blocks for a globally coordinated and comprehensive policy and regulatory framework for crypto assets. The global push for clearer policies on crypto assets has gained momentum under the Indian presidency, and a global consensus is emerging on the same. The presidency will support the IMF and the FSB, and FSB is also setting the contours of the regulatory framework for a globally coordinated approach to crypto assets. So the presidency, with the support of IMF and the FSB, is setting these contours.
But it is still unfortunate that we have guys like Gary Gensler, for example, who are continuing to just stifle innovation. In fact, they have filed the appeal against Ripple as the legal battle intensifies.
Look at that picture. Look at this guy. It's so funny.
The SEC levels allegations against Ripple, accusing the company of stalling resolution to preserve unregulated XRP sales. But come on, let's be honest at this point. They just continue to take L after L after L. So you can talk all the 100%. Smack you want about the U.S. Yes, we have a lot of problems, but at least the freaking judicial system is paying attention. At least they are separating themselves from Gary's ridiculousness and realizing this. You know, you have Tom.
That's kind of one of the most shocking parts. This guy, Tom Emmer, like he just hates Gary at the SEC, and it's just funny to see how they just butt heads and like how the SEC's on one side of the scale and, you know, everybody else is like on the other side when it comes to the rulings and all that.
Emmer, for example, he says that Gary Gensler has abused his authority to grow the administrative state to the detriment of the American people. Congress must use all of our tools, including the appropriations process, to restrict Chair Gensler from further weaponizing tax-paying dollars.
Holy shit, he said this yesterday? I mean, 2 days ago? What's today? Today's the 11th, 3 days ago, September 8th, he said this. Man, he's still on Gary Gensler's case.
That's why I'm planning to sponsor an apparitions amendment that restricts the SEC's use of funds on digital asset enforcement until there are clear rules and regulations in place. And there's also speculation that Gary might actually either resign or be completely replaced by next year. That's just sort of like the word on the block. That's what I'm hearing, right? But I hear it, guys. I hear you yelling loud and clear. What about that DXY? What about the fact that we're, you know, over here, we're pumping, we're putting in these higher levels. This is scary. What does this mean for everything? Well, why don't we actually have a little bit of a look into the reality of really what is going on with the DXY, right? So the thing that you really need to pay attention to is really the DXY is a basket of currencies, right? So if you're looking at what's going on worldwide, you're actually seeing a lot of these other fiats fall, right? You could see that, you know, the euro is down 2.6. You know, you have Great British Pound, 2.4, Canadian dollar, etc. Like, so you could see that really...
That's funny. He skipped over JPY. I was wondering if he was going to skip over that because I don't know. Does anybody know what that is? What does that stand for? Is it like, I don't even know, joules or something? What's JPY stand for in CHF? Let me know in the chat.
It's a reflection of the other currencies debasing themselves even faster than the US dollar. So that's why we're seeing this happen right here. But it doesn't really necessarily...
Japanese yen. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. What's the other one? What's the one on the bottom? I'm just interested to know.
Necessarily mean that the dollar in and of itself is strong. It's just the lesser of the evils, right? So that is sort of something that a lot of people don't really understand when it comes to the
CHF.
DXY. And just kind of historically looking at how the DXY behaves, and I understand money printing and all those other narratives, but if you just have a look, the most probabilistic outcome is a rally for the history books. The market has assigned this as the least probabilistic outcome. What a time to be alive. And it's just insane how negative everybody has been, how just the sentiment, right? Ever since the bottom, just these people saying we're going to go to 10, we're going to go to 5. And yet what did Bitcoin do? It literally rallied over 100%. Oh, but I get
I mean, Swiss franc, CHF? Interesting, Swiss franc.
it, guys. It was a bull trap, right? It was all just a bull trap. I think we got a lot of sour bears out there right now sitting in
Sour
cash who
bears.
missed that complete opportunity. Now, we have talked about how the market may offer that opportunity one more time. I'll get into that, but it's not very likely. So let's dive in. Let's have a look. Having a look at the S&P. Again, S&P, yeah, putting in something. If you want one thing that could be a little negative, even though it had, is this doing something like a head and shoulders pattern? I mean, maybe, potentially, but even so, like we said, if we were to come down here and retest around, the 4130 area, we're still in this not parabolic trend, but we're still in this uptrend, this parallel channel. So until you can knock out one of these, right, and lose this upwards trend, then we are still, in fact, going up, and we also are bouncing off this heart line right here. So, I'm not seeing just yet the doom and gloom that everybody calls for. Now,
If anybody missed this video, again, I have it linked down in the description below if you guys are just joining. I think it's super important to go and watch this, from I don't know, probably 4 minutes into after this guy talks. We're still early right here, like the 6:30 mark. So go back and watch that if you guys haven't, or you can just scroll back in this video.
Talking about Bitcoin, yes, it is unfortunate that we have started to see these ribbons sort of flip to the other side. Same thing over here. And we never actually technically got full confirmation. I know we got excited when we did have this yellow moving average, but really we never had 100% flip on the band. So I was saying we've never seen a flip totally into positive and then a flip totally back to negative. So technically, even if we do have this happen right now, it still wouldn't break the history of this EMA ribbon, because technically we didn't really get the full bullish flip. We were just looking potentially for that to happen. So really all we got to do is break back above around the 26,700 level, and you would be right back inside of that, right? Also looking at, some of these major moving averages, we do have this 50, and zooming in over here, yes, we have been held down by it, but we have been also held down by this Terra Luna wick for quite some time, and we've actually had two bounces on top of that. The other thing which is interesting is if you zoom in here, right, you kind of got to say to yourself, and actually let me go back to this. Let me go back to the smaller time frame real quick, because if I go over here to CoinCatch, for example, which, by the way, if you guys are interested in learning how to trade, make sure you guys check out the tutorial popping up above. We do have over $66,000 in bonuses, so just check that out. That will be popping up above.
Weird. I wonder if Brave Browser blocked the info thing.
But look at something really interesting that we've seen. This is the same exact pattern playing out over and over and over again. Look, we have this fake out pump, start to lose some, start to lose the price. Boom, sloppy Bart Simpson, right? We come back up, same thing. We start to lose, right? Sloppy Bart Simpson. That's gonna be the new thing, sloppy Bart Simpson. So we come up here, right? Start to lose the price, start to get pushed down, the wicks get lower. Boom, same thing. But if you actually have a look at what we're kind of forming right now, you could argue that, so this is a double bottom, right? And we said that it was most likely that we were gonna have the pump, and we did, but that got rejected. But look at what's happening again, guys.
Very true.
We could potentially be putting in another double bottom. So we have two miniature double bottoms inside of a potential giant double bottom. That's extremely bullish. That's actually how most
that's on the 4-hour time frame, so you guys know. So this should play out in a couple days.
Most of these, we get these reversals. In fact, if we come back over here, what do you think this was right here? What do you guys think this was right here? Massive double bottom. And that's exactly what we called back in the day when everyone else was bearish and they missed out on that 100% move, right? So obviously, I'm not saying that we can't fall down a little bit. We have been supported by this trend. We have stayed above the 50, which is good. The trend is your friend until the end. We have not put in lower lows yet, and we haven't put in lower highs yet, right? So could we go down to some of these lower levels? Well, yes, but having a look right here, like Mustache pointed out, we did the same exact thing in the COVID crash, right? Where we came down below these levels, we broke the trend, and then we retested it. What do you think we're doing right exactly now? Same thing. History doesn't repeat, but it often does rhyme, right? Yes, we are being held down by the 21 exponential, but at the same time, we haven't even come down to this 50. So that oftentimes, as you guys can see right here, provides massive support, and I had this from last time, that's why my drawing is still on here, but if I just get this out of the way for you guys, you know, talking about this golden cross that we're having right here, and I know everyone's talking about this death cross on the daily, I've heard it, I hear everybody, but keep in mind, the higher time frames have more value, they have more significance over the lower time frame. So when you're talking about a weekly time frame, this has more significance than a daily time frame. So getting a golden cross on a weekly is a lot more substantial than getting a death cross on a daily.
And
right?
look how close it kind of gets here too. So I mean, even though it comes super close, it might not happen.
The higher time frames are the ones that hold the most weight. So again, if we look at the VPR right here, and I might be blocking you, I'm sorry if you can't see it, you know, this does say that, yes, there is a possibility of having a little bit of a retracement, and we could come back down to around 23,000. But I don't think we're going to go any lower than 20 because of the amount of interest here. Not only is it's the psychological 2017 top after everything that's happened, all of the crashes, the FTX, the FUD, I'm not going to name everything. If we're still up at these levels, I would say that the sellers are exhausted. Or, more likely, somebody's accumulating, right? Doing an
BlackRock.
OTC maybe. That's why the markets really aren't moving. So, you know, coming over here again, having a last final look at this, could we fall down to these levels? Yes. But ultimately, remember, the bigger moves are more important than the smaller moves. The larger patterns are more important than the smaller patterns. We were in, starting from February of 2021, all the way until the breakout of January of 2023, we were in this giant falling wedge pattern, right? Falling wedge patterns are inherently bullish. We did this for a very long time, about 2 years. So from this breakout point, this puts us somewhere up around, you know, 56,000. And if you want to take it on the retest, that
holy shit, we did that for 2 years. Look at that. That's crazy. This is the daily chart. That's nuts.
It's us anywhere from $47,000 to about $53,000. And, you know, you could say what you want about this chart, but we continue to put in higher highs and higher lows. So obviously, I do think there may be a fake out. That's actually what I'm anticipating. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a fake out down to one of these VPVRs. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody's like, oh my goodness, this is it. I knew I should have sold. I knew I screwed up. And what's going to end up happening? You get one of those weekly wicks. Everybody misses out. And then we begin the run, right?
And you know what's funny? That's what something that Max Voltage said, actually. He said, if you have money on the sidelines, get it in. Just put your buy order in, because if it wicks down, you're going to miss it. And that's so true. And I've been thinking about putting money in to just have it for that reason and put a buy order in. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Is that a good idea or not? Let me know in the chat or in the comments.
I also believe, like I've been saying, like we have the Bitcoin halving coming up. And as far as this ETF approval, I think it's going to catch a lot of people off guards. I think they're waiting for some kind of special deadline, right? Everybody's like, okay, they got to make their decision today. I would not be shocked if they just come out with that decision out of left field, like just some random, unexpected day that no one's anticipating anything, because that's really how these types of things happen. And the question is, if you're not prepared, you know, if people aren't paying attention, well, they're probably going to miss out. And, you know, generational opportunities,
100%.
They don't come around that often. So that's it for me again, guys. If you do want to check out CoinCatch.
Yeah, not financial advice, but it's definitely a good idea to get over there and at least put some sort of buy wick in if you guys, you know, think it could possibly get down to 20 or whatever. It doesn't matter. Any price lower than it is now. If you put your price order in and you just let it sit, if it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. At least you still had your, you know, you covered your ass basically if it does wick down. You're not like looking at your account, shit, I missed the buy. You know what I mean? It happens, but not financial advice, but it's a good idea. It is definitely a good idea. All right, this video right here, how high can Bitcoin go in 2024? So I want to see what they have to say here. This is Altcoin Daily. It's a 17-minute video. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to watch the whole thing, but let's dive into it and see what this guy says. He's been on the channel before with actually I gotta hit that like button. No, I did. All right, he's been on here before with Mr. Altcoin Daily Austin over here, and yeah, they've had long conversations about charting and all this other shit. So let's see what they got to say over here, and then if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Mr. Rud Puts, thank you so much for the 249 euro. You're awesome. You love those emojis.
Eagle, I love that. Cap, swag, I
love how you put the A and then the I. It's great how he reads it. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much. All right, let's do it. You guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
What are your next price targets for Bitcoin?
Wait, what the hell? He's got the same music. That's funny.
Today I interview quant analyst Benjamin Cowan, and we discuss, based on the data, how high, realistically, could the Bitcoin price go next year in 2024, post-halving? And then, of course, today, why is the Bitcoin price sinking why are we going down?
I think we've talked a little bit about expectations for the pre-halving year, and our general expectations, as you saw in 2019, is we kind of spend half the year going up, half the year going down, and we really get into that time-based capitulation part, which I think is probably more brutal, honestly, than price-based capitulation. It's where we get to the phase where people just really don't care anymore, and they say, people don't really care if the price goes up. They don't really care if the price goes down. We start to set into some form of apathy. And I still think that is likely where we're headed. And, hopefully the markets will pick back up sometime, maybe like mid next year.
And when they do, it'll be a rush to get in, just like every other time it has been.
There yet. It seems apathetic now, but I guess there is still an audience. People are watching this video, liking this video now. We have to wait.
Speaking of that, hit that like button, guys. 97 people here, 30 likes. Unless you're driving to work, then you have an excuse.
Till they leave?
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate aspect of it is normally, I would say, do you remember the social risk we looked at previously?
Yes.
That's kind of interesting, because if you look at it here, you can see that. Can you see the social risk right here?
Yes.
I would like for us to set some higher lows and higher highs at some point. We have been unable to do that so far. You can see it's just one lower high and one lower low after another. And if you were to take, say, like a 30-day moving average of the social risk, you can see that we're kind of getting into some territory that we haven't seen in a long time. And that's that 0 to 0.1 risk band, which normally good things are not happening once we enter it. I think the sort of the glass half full approach is to say that, well, once we hit rock bottom, there's only one direction left to go, and that's theoretically up. I don't think the social risk has fully bottomed out yet. You can see that it actually went lower in 2018 and in 2019 in terms of the 30-day SMA of it compared to where it is right now.
Real quick, in the chat, David G actually asked, anyone know how often Pac-Man is paid out from crazy pools? So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was talking to Steven Cicero the other day, and he said that he thinks the payout is attached to the Octaspace payout. So however much you have it set for, say, like I have mine set for 10, until Pac-Man gets to 10, you won't get the payout. Do you know what I mean? So it could sit there for like 2/3 longer than your Octaspace actually does, because I think that's the ratio. You get like, I don't know, 1/3 of whatever you get for Octa. So let me know if that comes through and is true, but that's how I think it works, Mr. David G.
So what's the biggest indicator that's affecting Bitcoin and crypto today? Is it still the Fed?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to see liquidity come back to the cryptoverse, and that's just simply not going to happen when we have core CPI still printing where it is. If you look at inflation year over year, it's still sitting between 3 to 4%, which is, again, not where the Fed really wants it to be. And as long as this is the case, right, as long as we see inflation high and we see a relatively tight labor market, it is unlikely that the Fed is going to pivot. If you were to look at, I think we've talked about net liquidity before, like total net liquidity or global net liquidity. If you look at that chart, in general, when liquidity is going down, it's going to act as a headwind for things like Bitcoin and, of course, for the altcoin market. So ideally, we'd get to the point where we start to see liquidity flow back in, and I don't really think we're going to see that as long as inflation is at 3 to 4%. And remember, the Fed, up until this point, they have a dual mandate, right? They need they need price stability, but they also want to see maximum employment. So far, they've been trying to reach price stability by bringing inflation back down. The labor market has barely budged, but with job openings coming down and likely to see some seasonal effects, we're here with initial claims and continued claims. We've seen them go back up in September like we did last year. I think as we get to the end of this year, early next year, we're going to see the lag effects finally take hold. And then the Fed's going to have to sort of weigh the balance between inflation and the labor market. So theoretically, sometime next year, once we're on the other side of a Fed pivot, I think we'll see liquidity flow back into the cryptoverse.
Real quick, just want to show Mr. David G. So like right here, if you look, this is my Pac-Man balance right now. It's at 5. I should get paid out around 10, if I'm not mistaken. So let me know if that worked for you or not.
And how does I guess the stock market is affected by the Fed as well. How about the housing market? Does that affect the overall crypto market?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, housing is interesting because the housing market moves at a snail's pace, especially compared to crypto. I mean, with crypto, it's like if you put out a prediction and it doesn't pan out the next day, people say you're wrong. With the housing market, it can often take years to play out. You can look at things like, sale. This is like the sale price, the median sale price of houses sold for the United States. And I mean, this one at least shows it's coming back down, which is, again, arguably what the Fed would like to see. The months to sell a new home was actually going back down, which is not a good thing, especially if the Fed's wanting to sort of loosen up supply. But the thing we have to remember about the housing market is that these cycles take place over many, many years, right? It's not like the cryptoverse where you go up 2,000% in a year and then you go down 80% the next year. It's sort of like a long, grueling process. So I'm sort of looking for, like, here's a good example, right? Like months to sell a new home. I think that it probably bottomed out here at 1.5 months. In October of 2022, I'm thinking it probably puts in a higher low here as we get in.
Real quick, just talking about that Pac-Man thing in the chat. I apologize, keep pausing the video, but Steven Cicero made a good point. So your gas fees could be affecting that too. If the gas fees are too low or set too low, it won't trigger the payout, regardless of how low the payout is. Does that make sense? If you're not meeting that minimum gas fee or transaction fee, which is what a gas fee is, it's just not going to pay you out
to the end of the year, and then continues to slowly move back up. So in terms of the housing market, we saw it slow down a lot, right? And of course that was due to higher interest rates. That was one of the things, higher interest rates. People don't want to go take out a mortgage 7 or 8% if they're just simply not used to that being the norm. But as the Fed continues to push higher for longer, at some point, I imagine something's going to break. And the people that have been unwilling to sell their home because they're locked in a low price, that could change, here in the next year or two, especially if we ultimately get a recession. Right? If you think about what makes people want to sell their home, it would be if they're moving for a new job. It could be if they're just laid off. Of course, there's also, just big life events like you get married or something like that. But remember, the Fed will continue this process until they see a material impact. And I don't really think they've seen that just yet, which is why they're likely going to keep interest rates higher for a longer period of time.
What are your next price targets for Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, so for Bitcoin, I think there's a good chance that sort of in terms of the next, like, let's call it 4 to 6 weeks, I think we're likely going to see price pull back to at least that $23,000 mark. I'm going
to put a poll in the chat. I want to know if you guys think the same, 23,000 in the next couple weeks.
Reasons for that, just from a monthly candle perspective, I mean, 23K is sort of where all this prior support and resistance was. So I think there's a good chance we'll see Bitcoin pull back into 23K there. Another reason to sort of consider 23K, if you were to overlay the year-to-date ROI in 2023 compared to the average of 2015 and 2019, kind of seems like we're just going to continue this slow fade, like as you can see the prior average did. And this would put us down at around $23,000. So I think that in the short term, we're likely going to see Bitcoin fade down to 23K. I'm guessing it happens sometime this month, is my guess. Is that because, again, normally September is not really a great month for Bitcoin. The average return in September for all prior pre-halving years is like negative 20%. So I don't really think September is the best month for Bitcoin.
You can see it right here. This is the whole column. There's been 3 years that September has been positive, and positive by like 15%, 2%, 8%, or 6% or something. Can't really see it. It's kind of small, but just overall, it's got a majority of red in the month of September for whatever reason.
I do think the yearly high is in. So I do think that the yearly high is in for Bitcoin. Again, in 2019, we saw sort of this yearly high.
Did you hear that? He said he thinks the yearly high is in, which would be what, 30K or so?
I come in about halfway through the year. So I think we're likely just looking at more or less the same thing.
So next realistic price target for Bitcoin, potentially in the next month, is $23,000. What's your worst case scenario, or when the Fed has to pivot, when maybe those other markets crash? What do you see?
Yeah, so here's a cool chart. This chart, I think we talked about the social risk before. There's also the price risk and the on-chain risk. And if you combine all three of them into a summary risk, you get a chart that looks like this. And the thing that I note here is that every prior pre-halving year, so in 2019, in 2015, and in 2011, we saw this total indicator risk go to that 0 to 0.1 risk band, right? And it looks like we're in the process of heading there now, okay? So I think that we do likely see Bitcoin fade back down. You know, whether it ends up being a higher low, a double bottom, or a lower low, obviously is going to be up for interpretation. If you were to ask me what is like my worst case scenario for Bitcoin, it is possible for us to put in a new low. I know that is not what we've historically seen. Last cycle, it was a higher low. Cycle before that, it was a double bottom, right? So there's not really a lot of history to show that Bitcoin puts in a lower low. So I don't really want to say that it has to happen. But worst case scenario, right, of course, is a lower low. And there is at least some evidence to suggest that that's a possibility. One of the charts that you might look at as reason to suggest that is if you were to look at like the balance price of Bitcoin. Historically, Bitcoin finds daily closes below the balance price every cycle, right? So you can see we found daily closes below the balance price in the pre-halving year of 2011. You can see that we found daily closes below the balance price in the pre-halving year of 2015. And you can see that we found daily closes below the balance price in December of 2018, just before the pre-halving year. And we came close to it again in early 2020. So far, while we have come close to going below the balance price, we actually did go below it on a wick. We have not seen any daily closes below the balance price. And the balance price currently sits at 14.7K. So in order to sort of check that off the list of things that need to happen, that would sort of be a worst case scenario, is a close just below, the prior lows. Again, this is what I would consider to be a worst case scenario. What's interesting about that, though, is the 2019 high was just below 14K. So I sort of think that might be a worst case scenario target, is somewhere in this range, right? Somewhere over here in this range as a absolute worst case scenario. And the way that it could happen is if the Fed just stays higher for longer, right? Like if inflation doesn't come down as quickly as they want, which it probably won't. We're watching oil rally today and continuing to move higher. If inflation does not come down as quick as they want it to, they're going to be forced to go higher for longer in terms of interest rates and to continue on with their QT. So as long as that's the case, then this does become, a potential viable outcome. But I don't think anyone should go into this saying like this has to happen. It's more so just a worst case scenario.
In the year 2023, have you bought any dips, Benjamin, or are you still all in cash in 2023?
The only thing I bought is at least in terms of crypto is Bitcoin. I mean, I bought some at the end of 2022, some I think at the very beginning of 2023. But it wasn't like a huge position, right? I've nibbled at it here and there, especially as we were in some of the lower risk bands. If you were to, just sort of go back to that chart, right? If you were to look.
Speaking of like putting money into other things, I took a screenshot of this earlier. So if you just hold it, like this is USDC 5% reward simply holding USDC on Coinbase. So if you guys are you want to put money on the sidelines, I would recommend, not financial advice, but definitely throw it into USDC and get some of that interest while you wait.
Look at the total indicator risk for Bitcoin. There's actually a cooler way to look at it here.
I got that this morning because it was at like 4% or something, or 4.5% like the other day.
And that's to color code it, right? So if you color code this chart and you isolate just the lowest wristbands, right? So this is the 0 to 0.2 wristbands. This shows you, if you had followed the strategy over the long haul, it would have worked out quite well, right? I mean, you could.
Yeah, this guy Ben is very conservative with trading and
quite
has
well.
a lot of
patience. What's also interesting, you can highlight the peaks with the 0.8 to 1 wristband. If you take away the 0.1 to 0.2 wristband, you can see that we actually haven't hit it yet this cycle, right? But we've hit it all prior pre-halving years, right? 2011, 2015, and 2019, we've hit it. So the only thing I've really bought really since the end of 2021 is Bitcoin. And I just DCA it periodically when the risk levels are low. I haven't bought any altcoins. I think your viewers are probably well aware of that. I haven't bought any altcoins. I generally think they're just going to continue to bleed against Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a poll in the chat for that too. I want to know if you guys think altcoins is just gonna go to complete shit, because it's been rough lately. But real quick, the poll in the chat: we have 30K. Well, next few weeks, BTC price 30K ish, 5%. Same 25K ish, where it's just gonna hover right where it's at. 35% of people think that. 23,000, 47% of people think, and 20K or lower, 14%. Interesting. Thank you guys for answering that. Appreciate it.
And so I'm looking towards, you know, on the potentially the closer to a Fed pivot to get into the altcoin market.
By the way, for the audience, if anybody wants access to these charts, I will put an affiliate link down below. And Benjamin, to flip on the other side of this narrative, once Bitcoin does bottom, how long do you see until Bitcoin can reach a new all-time high?
That's a good question. I mean, history would say there's a good chance it'll happen either late halving year or sometime in the post halving year. Last cycle, it actually occurred in the halving year, right?
Most people were saying, what, 18 months or so after the halving that we'll get the new all-time high or the next all-time high?
Bitcoin sort of go parabolic and take out 20K at the end of 2020. It also came on the back of a ton of money printing. The cycle before that, it actually took until the post-halving year to put in new highs, right? Like if you were to look at 2013's peak, we didn't actually take that out until about halfway through 2017. So, you know, I think if Bitcoin's going to take out these highs, which I think it will eventually do, I think the earliest it happens is my guess, 2025. I mean, it could happen at the end of 2024 if they just aggressively print again. So I don't want to rule that scenario out, especially since it happened last cycle. But considering that inflation is more of an issue this cycle than it was last cycle, I doubt they're going to do that. So my guess is the earliest that it happens would be sometime in 2025.
All right, so he's saying sometime in 2025. I don't know if I want to. Well, how high could the Bitcoin go in the next all-time high? All right, I guess we can go over that real quick, but I just do want to do a little, I guess, PSA, right? Fully Electric just said, myself and my family has 260K in GUSD, 5% APY in Gemini Earn, and now it's dead, still waiting to get our money back. So, obviously, invest and listen to people on YouTube with a grain of salt. Don't, like, take whatever they say with a grain of salt. Don't just invest everything you have into, you know, something like USDC, like I just showed, for 5%. I mean, if you're going to put, say, $5,000 in to purchase Bitcoin at some point anyways, why not hold it in there versus your bank account? You're going to be getting more interest. So that's just my opinion, but I would only use trusted exchanges. To me personally, I would only use Coinbase. That's just how it is. That's how I feel about it. I don't care about crypto.com. I don't care about any of those other shitty sites that just are again, Gemini, like that perfect collapse right there that nobody saw coming, right? FTX, a lot of people had money in that, lost money. I would rather keep it in a company that has been back and forth with the SEC, actually trying to regulate, became a public company. Like, there's a lot of things behind Coinbase that I actually like, and I would trust, you know, a certain amount of money. Again, it wouldn't be all of my money, but it would be a certain amount. That's just risk manage and be smart about it. That's all I'm saying. All right, let's listen to the rest of this, and then we're gonna get out of here.
And are there any charts that you have that fundamentally can give us a clue to, like, oh, maybe it'll top at this range based on this or this?
Yeah, you know what? Kraken's pretty good too. I give Kraken a shout out for that, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's other risk metrics as well. So I would say currently, if I were to go to the sort of just the Bitcoin risk, that's just based on the price, I would be looking for that one to go in the highest, sort of in that highest risk band. And I mean, I think right now it's not over six figures, but it certainly could get there, assuming we get some type of a bull run. I think it's important to recognize that there is this aspect, and there has been this aspect of diminishing returns, right? So, like, you know, 3 cycles ago, we saw Bitcoin go up, you know, thousands, you know, like hundreds of X, right? Like 600, 700X. The cycle after that, it went up 500X. The cycle after that, it went up 100X.
So right now, he's being super conservative. He doesn't want to give a prediction because, honestly, nobody can give an actual prediction when it comes to, like, what Bitcoin's going to be at next, to the next all-time high. Nobody knows that. I don't give a shit how many people tell you where it's going to be. Nobody can actually tell you that.
Last cycle, it went up, you know, like 20 some odd X from the bottom. So it probably depends on where the bottom is. I mean, if the bottom's already in, then yeah, I mean, maybe we go slightly above the prior highs. Maybe 100K is in the cards. If the bottom's not already in, then it could be somewhat temperate. I don't think that we're going to 300K, right? Like, I know those predictions have already started to come back out again, just like they did last cycle. I do think Bitcoin will eventually go that high, but I don't think it's going to go to 300K this coming cycle, because if it were to go to 300K, then you're essentially, you know, people are starting to sort of not look at this diminishing returns aspect of it again. I mean, again, like from the prior high last cycle, we only went up, what, 3x from the prior high, from like 20K to 60K? 60K to 300K would be a 5x move from peak to peak. So I think that's a bit of a stretch. So it's probably not going to be that close to,
that makes sense,
those levels.
actually.
But I think it's realistic to look at some of those slightly higher levels than the prior highs. Maybe we hit 6 figures next cycle. We'll take it one step at a time. There's also, I think there's one other chart that might be a worthwhile, just while I'm thinking about it, looking at the terminal price. So we looked at the balance price earlier for cycle lows, right? So this was the one we looked at for cycle lows. There's also one called the terminal price, which is sort of used to look at peaks. So that one's currently at 117K. And you can kind of see that it historically has come back up to the terminal price before ultimately fading back down. So again, you might see it break those 6-figure levels, but I don't think it's going to go up to 300K like many might hope.
Well, huge shout out to those guys for their video. Again, I do want to just play this real quick one more time from Crypto Zombies channel, and I'm going to I guess we'll just skip right to here, because anybody that's just joining, I do think this is important for you guys to hear, and I'm going to try not to blow out your eardrums here. Real quick though, before I actually play this, Mr. Magic Lucky said CoinMarketCap does a decent job showing you risk levels of all the exchanges. He said that's what I'd refer people do. So I mean, I actually agree with that. It's smart to go and do your research on CoinMarketCap. I mean, you should always DYOR, right? Do your own research. So just keep that in mind. But guys, listen to this. This is very important over here. And yeah, the guy makes good points.
And how technologies advance over time. And it really puts you into perspective where we actually are in this cycle right now.
We are in the early stages of this technology, and I really want to provide some examples of that. It generally takes about 25 to 30 years for human beings to adopt a new data transfer technology. Radio was invented in 1890, but wasn't commercially available until the 1920s. TV was developed in the 1920s, but wasn't in homes until the 1950s. Email was invented in 1969, but most of you most likely didn't have an email address until 1997. There is one that I really want to focus on, and that's TCP/IP, which is the internet, for those that don't know. It was developed as a DARPA project in 1970, but it wasn't really commercially accepted until 1995 when it was rolled out with Windows 95. There's another important date, which is 1983. 1983 is when TCP/IP was accepted as the standard protocol for internet development, 13 years after it was created. Well, here we are, 13 years after Bitcoin was created, and we're just now starting to talk about standardization. This is not a coincidence. Adoption at this stage is not a technology problem. It's a human conditioning issue. Every 13-year-old in the United States has only existed in a world where Bitcoin has existed.
Crazy.
3 years from now, every 16-year-old will have only existed in a world where Bitcoin has existed. 16 years old is an important date because it's generally when someone becomes interested in becoming a developer. They are the adoption layer. We here in this room, we're the infrastructure layer. It's our responsibility to create an environment where every 13-year-old American has a framework upon which they can build the next world on.
And if
Isn't
you think
that
this is all
crazy?
just
Isn't that crazy? That's so true. It's so true on many accounts. Guys, I just wanted to leave you on that. But real quick, Dan R., thank you so much for that $5 super chat. He said, nobody, I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or Jimmy Buffett. Nobody knows if a stock will go up or down, sideways, or in effing circles. And I totally agree. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Sorry that I blocked the guy from reading it. But you guys are all awesome. I appreciate you all for hanging out with me today. I'll be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, hopefully on time. I'll try not to be late. It's just tough getting up on those Mondays. You guys know that. Anyways, have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow morning. Peace, peace.